FM, W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
Homeowners, would you like to save money each and every month? Of course you would. We all want to save money, but how? By calling Debbie at I Will Advisors, that's how, and have her review your homeowner's policy. Most homeowners never review their policy, but it should be reviewed every year. You commercial property owners, same goes for you. So what are you waiting for? Call Debbie at I Will Advisors and start saving money. 954-753-8080. 954-753-8080.
Let's talk about mental health, your teen's anxiety, a friend's depression, or your neighbor's panic attacks. Talk about you. Each year, 1 in 5 adults will experience a mental health condition. Untreated, it can affect how you relate to others and your ability to function at work or with family. It can even affect your physical health. Learn the signs, because feeling better is possible, especially when you seek treatment early.
This Beasley Best Community of Caring message is brought to you by Talk 1470 WNN. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. It's Monday night at 9 p.m. and time for Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Dr. Ricky Siegel is a certified sex therapist, educator, and supervisor, and his brother Larry Siegel is a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator. The Siegel Brothers are here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality, but we're unsure who to ask, including questions you didn't even know you had. They will also welcome guests from around the globe to talk about a wide variety of topics and issues within the fascinating world of sexuality. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Sex Talk.
Good evening, and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. It's Monday at 9 o'clock, and my name is Ricky Siegel. I'm a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator. And big brother.
Good to be with you again.
Same here, as always.
Yes.
Always, always.
So we are here tonight and every Monday night. We're on the radio in South Florida on 95.3 FM and 1470 AM. And we're also streaming live on Facebook. If you're watching, thank you for joining us and welcome. Please hit that like and share button and spread the word, because what better time is there to talk about sex than Monday nights at 9 o'clock?
Absolutely, and you can talk with us about sex as well.
Absolutely. Call into the station at 888-565-1470. We're on WNN in Boca Raton, sunny South Florida.
That's right.
Where
Hot,
it's been
muggy.
hot, but from what I've been hearing, not as hot as other parts of the country.
No, that's the thing. We generally stay a little bit more temperate. We at least have ocean breezes on most sides.
Yes.
So, as bad as it gets, it's not as bad as other places.
Yeah, and you know, if it's hot and steamy, you should talk about sex.
That's right.
If it's cold and frigid, you should huddle up and talk about sex.
That's right.
If it's raining, stay in and talk about sex.
And no matter what you're doing, again, I've been actually quoted on this, and it's like, you know, I would say mostly with sex therapy, but remember, it's like Jell-O.
Sure.
Right? Whatever you're doing, it goes with it.
There's always room.
That's right. There's always room for Jell-O.
So, and unfortunately, as we end up talking about most weeks, there's never any shortage of things to outrage us. People sometimes make the mistake of thinking that sexuality educators and sex therapists only deal with, like, sexy stuff, and, like, we're just looking at porn all day and seeing people naked and dancing in the halls. But most of it is, like, problems of sexual health, sexual dysfunction, and on the sex ed side, certainly sexual politics, which we're always raving about, because it affects our lives directly, and people don't even realize. Sexuality education and how our kids are being raised. It's pretty much a given that most people suck at it, right? Parents have kids, they become sexuality educators, but most shirk that job responsibility and would rather push it off on schools or wherever else it happens. But of course, schools just fight and carry on. So it's the perennial political football.
Right.
And we'll never stop fighting about who's allowed to say what in school. And if someone says penis or vagina, the principal's phone is blowing up and it's a big freak out. And so sex ed doesn't happen in any consistent, uniform
but that's not anything
way.
New.
Right. But see, this politics crap is new. This I just wanted to bring up. because with all of the, again, every week there's something new, crazy, on fire, upside down world in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
This week it's the reality stars lining up. Omarosa has her deck of cards with the tape she's threatening.
Yeah.
And the president has his deck of cards with the stripping of clearances that he's threatening, right? The WMDs,
right?
The weapons of mass distraction.
Distractions.
And while all this is going on, what most people have absolutely no idea on, the evil, insidious
what's
underbelly.
really going on?
Part of the reason why most of these Republican congressmen are quiet on this
That's
stuff,
right.
because this is happening.
What they're doing, skulking in the shadows.
I guarantee you 90% plus of Americans have no idea what FOSTA SESTA is.
No,
right?
I'm sure.
But this is something that affects potentially 90% of Americans, right? Anybody who's online, anybody who's looking for sexual health information online, sex ed, if it ain't going to happen in the schools because people can't stop running around carrying on like children, then young people, any people, should be able to find medically accurate, helpful sexual health information online.
One would think.
But no, now always, this is how the evil works, always under the pretense of protecting our children and defending against trafficking, is this steam and load of BS. Trump has signed into law the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act and the Stop Enabling Sex Trafficking Act. Right? See, there's the beauty of semantic and playing with language. Who's going to argue we don't have enough online trafficking? I'm opposed to the Fight Online Trafficking law.
Well, that's how politics has always set it up.
But it's ugly.
So you're going to vote no? That means you're not for children?
This piece of crap law purports to address the scourge of sex trafficking now here's how it's going to do that. Quote, clarifying Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934 and the Communications Decency Act of 1996. So they're reaching way back. And 96, remember the Howard Stern thing? When was the wardrobe malfunction and the breast that altered
that was like 2000.
Yeah, the Super Bowl. Right. And, it was during the Bush administration. Because remember, he had put Colin Powell's kid or something as head of the FCC.
Right.
And then they started changing the laws that not just whoever, the radio station would be responsible if somebody slips and says a dirty word and they have to bleep. But now the person saying it.
Right.
That's what drove Howard Stern off the air.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Now it's kind of like this. Now they're tweaking these old laws under the pretense of preventing trafficking and eliminating any protections that the law used to have against websites, internet forums. It used to be that if some quack was shooting off on Facebook or something or on Twitter, Twitter's not responsible for some hack, whatever they're saying. Now they're making websites
earlier
responsible.
In the year, right?
Yeah.
Craigslist had to get rid of all of their adult personals.
Right.
Backpages had to get rid of all of their adult personals.
Right.
I'm sure the Village Voice had to get rid of all their personals. All of those things that have always been out there, that was the first casualty. And again, a lot of that, especially the Craigslist stuff. Now, I'm not saying there isn't any trafficking, and I'm not saying that it's not a problem, but these are not the avenues that we need to be looking at. Because, first of all, a lot of that stuff, what shut Craigslist down really was a woman and her partner who took it upon themselves to do this and call themselves this advocacy organization, sitting there by them on their computer looking at photographs in personal ads and just saying, oh, I think she looks young. Oh, I think she looks underage. Oh, I think she looks underage. They must be trafficked. And that's what a lot of this political stuff, which, and again, I think it clouds the issue, which is why I'm taking issue with it. But this is what a lot of this stuff is based on.
Right. First and foremost, it really has a profound impact on sex workers. And let's be frank, Middle America doesn't care about the rights of sex workers.
Right.
But it actually increases the danger and the risk because a sex worker who can have a website and screen potential clients and have some safeties built in.
Doesn't need a pimp. Doesn't need
to be out on the street.
Somebody doesn't have to is not now just subject to somebody controlling them. Yeah, it really did disempower.
How
a lot
long?
of sex
It's making
workers.
sense now. How long have we been dealing with Facebook trying to, we're trying to boost our posts for this show, and we get labeled pornography,
Right.
Because
there's sex in the
there's
name.
sex in the name. Oh my
Right.
God!
Right.
Two middle-aged guys wearing ties, talking. That's porn.
Right.
With this guy ready to jump on the button if we say anything wrong. Oh my God! We're so we're so lascivious. We're such
That's
rebels.
Right. That's
But
right.
That's how
Salacious person.
It's so childish.
Well, it is. But again, what's the ultimate goal? Get rid of all of it.
Which, of course, how realistic is that?
Well, that's what, of course it's not realistic, but it doesn't mean they're not going to try to do that.
Why did anyone never learn from history? I can't even keep grammar. It gets me so crazy, right? That we've seen this already. That the more you try and clamp down and have a sex negative culture, the more like a trash compactor. You just push the toxicity down, and it squishes out the bottom and the
That's
sides,
right.
and leaves that stinking, festering mess. Big shock, surprise! Another scandal in the Catholic Church. After that movie came out last year,
Well,
about
one could
the
say it's not
Boston-
another scandal; it's just more of the same.
Right, the same scandal
Yeah.
ongoing. It's like, when are we going to wake up and see that we should be talking about sex all the time in families, at the breakfast table, on the way to school? Right, there's never a shortage
you know
of
what?
teachable moments to talk
The
about
cynical part of
sexual
me,
health.
the cynical part of me has to ask, why would this be any different? Our drug laws have been the same and equally effective
Yeah.
since the very first drug law went into effect almost 2,000 years ago.
Or at least
And
since,
we've
since
done-
Harry Anslinger and the Reefer Madness
No,
days.
even before then, the first drug law was really around coffee. Right? You
That's
know?
right,
And then
yes.
the imams found that people were spending more time in the
yeah.
coffee houses than in the mosques. So first real drug law that we know of was exactly the same as the drug laws now.
Yeah.
Get rid of coffee,
And
destroy the
humiliate-
supply,
humiliate the user.
users,
Right.
and prevent people from doing it.
Oh, that's always
And in
been
the last
effective.
2,000 years, the more we've seen that not work, the more we've done it. That
course.
seems to be our MO.
Yeah.
If it's not working, we'll double down on it and do more of it. Right? Look at the economy, and I'm sorry, Republicans and conservatives that still have this obsession with trickle down economics, which is, first of all, if we're going to learn a lesson from history, it doesn't work.
So somebody has to, Dan Savage succeeded with another sort of fluid. It's a couple of campaigns ago. We have to redefine trickle-down economics to have something
Yeah,
to do
exactly.
with the P-tape.
That's right.
And just eliminate
Well,
this
that's kind of
once
what
and
it is.
for all.
Whatever
because-
dribbles down our leg, you can keep.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Except some are more into it than others.
Yeah, but
apparently.
again, why would sex be any different? If we do this with economics, if we do this with drug policy, we've been doing this since the beginning of doing it.
Yeah.
So it's really not a surprise that when it comes to sexual stuff. But people, I think, really do need to be a little bit more hip to what's going on.
Well,
And that people are losing rights and liberties every single day. And all of this stuff really is distraction.
yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think you're making a really good point that one of the reasons why all of these congressmen, particularly the ones that off the record seem to have no problem saying how much they oppose what's going on and they're against it and all that, yet they
But
don't
they're
do anything
just-
on the record.
They're cowering,
Right.
terrified.
But this is how they can quietly get away
and
with
get
what they
stuff
want to
like
do.
this done. Well, happily, small as we are, but mighty, we are part of a professional organization that takes stands against these things and adds to the discourse. I'm talking about ASECT, the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, the only private member organization in the country and now in the world. There's international members.
Right.
That
And it's the only certification body.
certifies its members, right? So this is another bizarre thing about our field. Florida, for some reason now, 25 years we've been trying to get an answer to this. Maybe somebody listening will clue me in. But Florida's the only state in the entire country that has a law on the books regulating the use of the title certified sex therapist.
Right.
So
Right, 'cause
in
we
the
had
rest of the
somebody like Harvey
country,
that
in
lobbied.
California, I believe, has now some similar language in their practice law for therapists. But in almost the entire country, you're a sex therapist when you say you are.
Right.
And somebody
Right.
can just, have these like Tupperware parties known by slightly other names where they, invite their friends and neighbors over to sell sex toys and cutesy little, game nights and stuff. And they're like experts.
Well, a lot of them actually call themselves sex educators.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So, yeah, having
to
certifications,
regulate.
having credentials, having
It is
experience
important. It
and
is
education
important,
is
right.
important.
Like we always talk about, like our dear friend Roger Libby is always yelling about to anybody who listen. If you ask your therapist, if you're in therapy,
That's
if you're
right.
seeing a therapist, ask them. And if they claim to be a sex therapist, ask them if they're certified and where they got their training. And just being into sex or enjoying talking about it does not qualify one. I love another of your classic analogies. You can be the greatest mechanic,
Right.
but it doesn't make you a good driver. And, there's plenty of technicians, especially in medicine, especially in the helping professions. But this is an art and
Yes,
science.
absolutely.
And it just takes...
Right.
How crazy is it that people are embarrassed to talk to healthcare providers, to bring up sexual questions because they're afraid of embarrassing the provider?
Right. And I've said for a long time that, that speaks volumes about what kind of vibe professionals are walking into the room with, especially when it comes to sex and sexuality.
Right.
They have no
Don't
trouble.
ask me.
It basically, might as well be wearing a sign, ask me about diarrhea, but don't ask me about sex. That's always been one of those things, even on television commercials. I've always
did a real spit take.
I've always been just amazed by that you can have commercials for products like that on
For
TV,
really
but
disgusting
for condoms
things.
or for sexual things, that was not allowed for so long.
Right? Yeah, because people are afraid, how do I explain that to my child? How do you explain douche commercials? Why is that not uncomfortable and embarrassing?
Right.
And this whole... right, yeah, I mean, it's definitely baffling.
Well, dear, so when mommy's not feeling fresh...
Oh, God. It's definitely historical. It's baffling to young kids, young boys in particular, to try and figure out what the hell sanitary napkins are.
Well,
and these
sure.
weird envelopes we used to see in hotel rooms. And forget about those weird
Well,
orange...
that was a censorship.
Those weird orange rubber bags hanging on the shower curtain.
Oh, sure.
Right?
But that was censored. That was right up there with bathroom tissue.
Yeah, why we
Couldn't even say toilet paper.
Yeah, can't say butt wipe. That'll get you in trouble. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, Ken.
Okay.
It was so goofy and so
really is.
childish with something so universal.
Right.
What else can anybody think of that every single person walking the planet has in common? And that's the thing that we carry on and can't talk about and titter and giggle and
Well, going back to what you started off with and what you were talking about, there's something that brings so much joy and so much connection and pleasure in people's lives is also the main
Even
source
single people.
of the worst kind of trauma and
shame.
injury and shame and darkness.
Yeah, and why can't, just you and I, like, maybe combined are about 55, 60 years in this field. Pretty close.
Yeah.
And just you and I and hundreds or thousands of people we've come in contact with can't move the needle. I mean, yes,
Well,
we talk about this a lot.
yeah,
in a lot
and
of ways, it's moved. A lot of ways, there's
exactly.
progress.
And we've moved a lot of individual needles.
Still,
But I
as a
think-
country, as a
Yes.
society, a country that prides itself. Look, how many Americans never step foot out of this country and they say, we're number one, the rest of the world sucks. The country that
none of these
prides
people have
itself
never
on
left.
being the greatest is so dismally poor in our sexual health, our collective sexual health, our attitudes, and our education. Isn't that ironic?
Well, that we are behind Kazakhstan in education.
How are we not mortified? God.
We don't need to be. Well, first of all, now we can't be mortified because we have this narcissistic shield that protects us.
Yeah.
Everything is great. Everything is
Right,
wonderful.
right. We
Just
don't
because
care.
we say it.
We don't care how everybody else does it. Right.
That's right. And it doesn't matter
Portugal,
what it really is. As long as
Uruguay,
we say it, that's the truth.
resounding successes in the wars on drugs, and we don't care. Well, no, we're the United States. We don't care how you do it. We might have something to learn.
Right. Well, but I think we want to be number one. Right? We do want to be the best. We want to be ahead of
We're
everybody
number
else.
one in all of the measurable consequences of poor sexual health.
That's right. We're the number one in unintended pregnancy.
We rival emergent nations.
We surpass a lot of emergent nations as well. You know, we're number one in unintended pregnancies, number one in sexually transmitted infections across the board,
in sexual assaults
per capita,
and
sexual
abusive
violence,
sexual
sexual assault, all of that kind of stuff. You think we're going to give that up? You think we're going to start bragging about we're number 2 in unintended pregnancies? Hell no. No. That's, you know, we got to protect that. Once you become the champion, you've got to defend that.
And I don't know if the stats have changed. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. But for years, Brazil was the number 2 country in the world where, largely because of the Catholic Church and the disapproval of birth control, abortion, not only the high prevalence rate, but commonly used as birth control.
Yes.
And we were light years ahead of Brazil in unintended pregnancy and abortion rates.
Right.
What's the excuse? In the Netherlands, the Catholic Church is one of the political parties, a Dutch friend told me a long time ago. And they're liberal. The Catholic Church is thousands of times more liberal. Well, yeah, okay.
They're practical. There's a big difference.
And
the same thing with
democratic.
people thinking that they're, cannabis has been legal, and people always had that thing about Amsterdam and legal weed and all that. It was never legal, but it was tolerated as long as you were cool.
It was mature.
Right? Don't make it a priority for law enforcement, and it won't be.
Right.
That's really how it was. You know, you blow smoke in a cop's face, you smoke out on the street in Amsterdam, you're going to jail. But they just have a better allocation of resources and a better way of prioritizing where the problems are. Right?
But see, here, it's kind of not real slow, but halting over the past, say, 15 years of the growth of medical cannabis in this country. But of course now, we have an attorney general that spent his whole career screaming about states' rights that now wants to enforce federal law.
Well, of course.
So when's the spillover? Now it's more than half the country. So are there going to be like 47 states that have medical marijuana, and the attorney general is still going to say no?
Well, I think what's going to happen.
I think what's going to happen is
Schedule
1 drug.
There are going to be
Narcotic.
enough state legislators that are going to see their constituents being unnecessarily arrested and well, actually, I'll finish that, but it could go one of 2 ways.
Yeah.
Right? Either there's going to be such an outcry that they have to change the law. That's the only way anything's going to change. The only way it's going to get descheduled is if the law gets changed. It has to be legislative. So it has to see enough of these people that are going to get burned in this crossfire of federal versus state that they're going to have to do something. But as I was starting to say this, I was also thinking there's enough of these yahoos that kind of believe, well, if you're doing this and you're doing drugs, you're slime and you're dirtbags and you deserve to be taken out.
Well,
so it depends on who's going to win.
Wasn't Trump was envious of what's his name in the Philippines?
Yeah.
That was
right.
Just killing people, just killing drug users and drug dealers at random. What do they call those? Without any court, without any just indiscriminate. But what may be one possibility, especially for these politicians to put their policies where their mouths are, is the opiate epidemic. We're not really talking about sex anymore, but sex, drugs, and they've already killed rock and roll. So,
but it is all connected, right?
Yeah.
But and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole either. So let's do what we need to do is empower people. Right? That's really what it's going to take. People have to feel empowered. They have to feel they can make their choices, that they can see where they need to go. All right. So the less we have to rely on the politicians, the better. And so people need, again, on every aspect of the political spectrum, people need to feel more empowered. And that also means vote. You've got to vote, especially in November.
Yes.
You have to vote. It really is an imperative. And that's part of that empowerment. And anybody that thinks that their voice isn't heard, their voice doesn't count, I promise you, if the voice is loud enough, it can't be ignored. And if it's loud enough and it's obvious enough, it can't be messed with.
I still remember vividly the 2000 fiasco, Bush v. Gore, where what was it, in Palm Beach County, it came down to
The hanging chads.
157 votes.
Yep.
And I remember berating my classes. 157 votes. We can, between the 3 campuses within a 2-mile radius, we can get 157 stoners to put down the video game joystick and get out and vote. And none of that would have happened. History would have been rewritten.
Right.
157 people said that's the thing.
And
the
that's-
left
and that's the
typically
issue.
doesn't vote.
Exactly.
They take things for granted. Pro-choice movement, I think, has just been resting on laurels for 40 years.
Unfortunately.
Just assuming, we'll never go back to those dark days. And holy cow, look what's happening all of a sudden.
And it's not even that. It's even just the people that have just grown complacent and have just really, in a way, known nothing else, that can't even fathom the idea of losing these rights.
Right. Especially the young people.
Yeah, especially, because it's all going to be contingent upon them.
And, we used to say because, of course, they're the most sexually active and they're the most directly involved by these laws, but they're not even anymore. Right?
Well, yeah,
now we
again,
still got to be talking to 30-somethings and 40-somethings.
Right, but across the board, again, it's still the 18 to 29 is still, and every generation, that is the core of activity.
Yeah.
So it has to, just got to get out there. So in the spirit of empowering people, we have a bunch of questions.
I don't even know if we left it. It's
that we're going to have to ignore.
That's right.
For the most part.
We'll have to do this next week. It's already 9:26. But these are great, and we want to encourage anybody who's listening on the radio or on Facebook or even old shows on YouTube. Go on the Facebook page and hit that send email button and let us know your questions and comments and thoughts. Let us know what outrages you.
Right.
Because we've got no problem talking about what outrages
so
us.
Again, for with the time that we have left, let's might as well stay on this. And again, this idea of why voting is so important is, and especially to millennials, you cannot take for granted that same-sex marriage is going to be here tomorrow, that birth control availability and accessibility is going to be here tomorrow, that the right to choose and have an abortion, if that's what somebody feels they need, don't take for granted that that's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Don't take it for granted that you're going to be allowed to have certain kinds of sex, because that's also on the on the burner.
They tried
when you look
that
at what's
during...
what's up for a vote in different legislatures all around the country. Every one of these things is in trouble. It is in the crosshairs.
I don't
Somebody
like
wants
when
to take
people
it away.
talk. People suddenly getting nostalgic for George W. because of this hot mess. But remember when one of his cronies tried to pass the Crimes Against Nature Act, defining specific sexual acts that people do in the privacy of their own home as a crime against nature? Are you kidding?
Right.
Who was it that said unnatural sex act is when you can't physically reach?
Yeah, I don't remember, but that's a great line.
And I think we're going to start hearing the music soon.
Yeah.
So
we
thank
got
you
one
again.
more minute.
Thank you again for joining us. If you want a private consult with a sex therapist, you can call me at 561-809-1080. Shoot an email to ricky@modernsextherapy.com or just through the show. You can reach either of us through the email feature on the Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers Facebook page. We will be here next Monday and every Monday at 9 o'clock for more Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Thanks for joining us. Think sexy thoughts.
Yes. And you know what? And don't wait to tell somebody that you love them.
Aww.
Right? Do, as a matter of fact, tell somebody that you love them tonight.
You big sap. I love you.
I love you.
You've been listening to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us every Monday night at 9 p.m. on WNN, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. Or watch live streaming video at AMP2 TV Productions on Facebook, or look for the shows on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again next week. The opinions expressed on